कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्येव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। Hare Krishna. So, can somebody read the translation of this song?
The dust from the lotus feet of pure devotees gives rise to devotional service, and service to the devotees is itself the supreme perfection and the root of the tender keeper of devotional love, divine love. With great care, I observe holy days like Ekadashi and Janmashtami, for they are the mother of devotion, and with the greatest reverence and love, I choose as my dwelling place the transcendental abode of Sri Krishna. In the company of loving devotees, I will visit all those places where my Lord Gaurasundar traveled and performed his pastimes. My mind always begs to hear the music of the mridanga, and my heart dances in ecstasy whenever I hear the kind of kirtan established by Lord Gaurachandra. I feel supreme bliss when I behold the deity forms of the divine couple, Sri Radha and Krishna, and I conquer all worldly illusions by honoring the Prashadam. Every day, Golok Vrindavan appears in my home when I see Lord Hari being worshipped there. My joy knows no bounds when I see the Ganges, a river of nectar, emanating from the Lord's lotus feet. The sight of the Tulsi plant soothes my soul, for I know she gives pleasure to Lord Krishna. I feel that my life has been fulfilled when I honor Sak, a green leafy vegetables preparation that is favorite of Lord Chaitanya. Whenever Bhaktivinoda obtains that furthers devotional service to Sri Krishna, he accepts every day with greatest joy.
शुद्ध भक्त चरण रेणु भजन अनुकूल
चरण
भक्त सेवा परम सिद्धि प्रेमरतिकार माधवी की भक्ति जननी जतने पालन कोरी कृष्ण भक्ति बसती बोली परम आदरि गोरी हमारे सब सारी कर लो भ्रमण रंगे से सब स्थान हेरि भुआमी प्रणयी भक्त सकुगे प्रणयी भक्त सार्थक हमारी कृष्ण भजने अनुकूल पाय प्रतिदिवसे परम सुखे स्वीकार सेवा परम सिद्धि विमल अधिकार मूला हरे कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। श्री भक्तिनाथ ठाकुर की जय। श्री एकादशी की। Hare Krishna. So, in the sadhaka's life or any yogi's life, if we see, this mind plays such an important role. The person can uplift himself with the help of mind, or he can degrade himself with the help of mind. Mana eva hi manushyanam karanam bandha mokshayoho. Mind is the cause of upliftment or the cause of liberation. So the mind, when it is engaged into the service of the Lord, it becomes the cause of upliftment. Such a mind is controlled mind. Same mind, when it is engaged in sense gratification, it becomes the cause of degradation, and that is uncontrolled mind. So we see that how the mind becomes uncontrolled. What is uncontrolled mind? Uncontrolled mind means the mind which is not steady, or which doesn't follow any dictations of higher self. That is uncontrolled mind. And why mind becomes unsteady? Because of material attachments. If you have only one attachment, then what happens? Mind remains fixed on that. But it never remains one. In material circle, it never remains one. It is always many. Bahushakha hi anantasya. Buddhayo avyavasayinam. Isn't it? It never remains one. So then what mind does? It hops from one attachment to another, one attachment to another, one attachment to another. Like that mind keeps on doing, isn't it? So that's how this mind, entangles the living entity very severely in this world. So Prahlad Maharaj, he says the topmost of all attachment is attachment to woman. And it produces so many other attachments. Punsa striya mithuni bhava metat striyo mithor hridaya granthi mahu. Atha kshetra sutapta vittir janasya mohoya maham ameti. Along with woman, then so many other paraphernalia also come. And then attachment becomes invested in so many objects. And in this way, the mind starts, flickering, jumping from one place to another. It starts flickering here and there. So, actually, in our life, we see that, our mind is actually, I don't know whether you experience or not, but our mind is actually like this. It is hopping so many places all the time. We are not able to steady our mind. We are not able to keep our mind in one place. It's like monkey, which is jumping all the time, isn't it? So why this is so? Because we have acquired so many bad samskaras from past. Lots and lots of bad samskaras have been acquired. We have filled so much kachra, you can say, in the mind, or so many attachments have been gathered that it is very difficult to get rid of them now. Sometimes we get grease if you are doing some servicing to vehicle. So the grease is attached to our body, isn't it? Our body gets covered with grease. Very difficult to get rid of grease, right? Or if we are cleaning the room, and sometimes the castor oil is there, very difficult to get rid of it. Similarly, these bad samskaras have captured our, occupied our mind, and now to get rid of them is becoming very difficult. But still, it is not impossible to get rid of them. It is possible still to get rid of them. So there are two methods. How do we get rid of such bad samskaras? One is primary method, another is secondary method. So what is primary method? Primary method is to hear and chant. Chant the holy names of the Lord and hear. Shravanam Kirtanam. So this is the most important method, how to get rid of these bad samskaras. Sincerely chanting and hearing, and it is very powerful. We should not doubt that by chanting and hearing, I can get rid of this bad samskara. It is certainly possible. These methods are so powerful, and to the degree we apply, to the degree we do it with concentration, to that degree, the reaction will take place very fast. Just like in laboratory, when we are doing chemical experiment, when we use concentrated acid, what happens? Reaction becomes very fast. If you put diluted acid, it becomes slow. Reaction will take place, but slowly. So to the degree we are concentrated, to that degree, our anarthas, our past sanskaras will be cleansed. On the other hand, to the degree it is concentration is less, to the degree our seriousness is less, to that degree it will take some time, but it will happen. It is not that it will never happen. It will surely happen. But then, how this concentration comes? This concentration comes by control mind, but it is
absorption.
Absorption and concentration is almost same only.
One pointed attention.
One pointed attention. It is again same.
No, but like Vyavasayikatmika buddhi is na, like Krishna says. So
Same as
if you have many things to do, then there is no focus. If you have only one thing to do or
okay.
one goal in life,
Only by keeping only one time, doing one time at a time. Okay.
Free from distraction, and we are attracted
Free
to
from
only one.
distraction. Getting rid of distractions. Yes. And
Yes.
what you said, Sushmit? Practice. Yeah, by practice also it comes. Correct.
Alertness, maybe
Alertness.
those
Yes.
who are concentrated can be there.
Okay. In association with this. Association gives all good qualities actually. Correct. Yeah.
One who is pure in his thoughts, words, and actions.
Ah, exactly. You are now
Keeping
coming.
away from the bad activities.
He is telling that by purity. Prabhupada writes, that's why if you read Bhagavatam, you get this answer. Prabhupada writes that nobody can pay any rapt attention unless he is pure in mind. And nobody can be pure in mind unless he is pure in eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. Pure in actions. Nobody can be pure in actions unless and until he is pure in eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. So it requires some purity actually. Innocence. Purity means what? Purity means innocence. Non-political mind, non-duplicitous mind. So in this world, when we live, sometimes our mind becomes very political and duplicitous, isn't it? While dealing with the things of this world, actually, especially the world has become so complicated, as Prabhuji was so nicely telling nowadays, that we are forced to be duplicitous sometimes. We are so forced to be political. But a devotee may sometimes do the needful for a higher cause in his life, like Vasudev had to play some duplicitous role with Kamsa. He thought that he tried to convince Kamsa by using diplomacy. Similarly, Sanatana Goswami also had to use diplomacy while dealing with that innkeeper or jail keeper also, that he told him, oh, you are a mullah and all that, you are Zinda Peer, he told him. Then I want to go to Hajj and all that. So that purity, that duplicity or diplomacy is required, should be used, so it is like a tool. You can say it is like a knife. It should be used only for a particular purpose, but we should not always carry it with ourselves. So similarly, in the material world, when we are dealing, sometimes this diplomacy is required, sometimes this kind of things are required, but we should not make that as all in all, and we should not bring it in devotional service. Otherwise, what happens? Our mind becomes impure. It becomes impure with this diplomacy, duplicity, political way. So when we are with devotees, one may say, Prabhuji, aisa double role kaise play kare? Actually, in outside world also, we should be simple and plain. We should not be duplicitous, or one should not, because it will fire back. But still, sometimes it may be really required. Like Sanatana Goswami, if he would not been diplomatic, he would have never come out of jail, and he would have never joined Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mission then. It was impossible because Nawab was very powerful. So he had to use. So should be that, hatyar jo hai wo diplomacy ka, it should be used. It should be used only when required, absolutely required, and kept it back. But in general, in our life, that's why we have to follow the example of such great souls as Sanatana Goswami. That in general, in his life, he did not use duplicity while dealing with Brajavasis or with Vaishnavas ever, right? He never did diplomacy with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So we'll just take it. So, but he was, very simple, innocent, and very devotional in his general dealings. Even in world, generally he did not use. It was only when required he took out that weapon and then kept it back. So it is not that we have to play double role. Actually, we should be always like this. But devotee is smart also. Rukmini also used diplomacy, right? If Rukmini would not have used diplomacy, then what would happen? She would have been married to Shishupal and things would have been spoiled. So sometimes a devotee may be required to do. But in general, she did not use diplomacy with Krishna. She was serving Krishna with great love and care, isn't it? So in this world, when we are dealing, it is inevitable. Now we see that the world uses impurity so much. There is so much of impurity. There is so much of impurity in this world that people are contaminated. Their dealings are never straight. Their dealings are very impure, very diplomatic, political. People deal with us in such ways. But then devotees, as a devotees, we have to be alert and careful in these regards. We cannot be, because it will agitate our mind, and we cannot then focus on the Supreme Lord. It is not possible to focus on the Supreme Lord because our actions will be impure. Because the actions will be impure, our mind will be impure, and if our mind is impure, we will not be able to focus on the Lord. So that's why this is very important. In this regard, Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita. Okay, anyways, I can take question of Sushant first. Yes, Sushant.
Generally, you are telling that sometimes publicity can be used. In general, a devotee has to be simple. But because this material world is full of cheaters, many times we see devotees are thoroughly getting cheated by materialistic people. Because in general, they don't present their this political nature or what. So many times devotees don't find, not able to differentiate like whether I should behave in this way or not. So how can one act?
Actually, a devotee should not be a political and duplicitous from his own initiative. He should try to be very plain and simple. But when, in order to defend himself, sometimes he may have to use. Like, that's why I was giving example of Sanatana Goswami. It was not that he was using diplomacy ever on even Nawab Hussain Shah. Or he was not doing it on general public. But because it was, he had to defend himself. He had to what do you say, he has to take care of certain basic things of his life. Like if he doesn't go to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, his goal of life will be missed. So that's why he used it only for that purpose. But on his own initiative, just imagine if Nawab Hussain Shah, like Ramananda Rai, was given free pension by Pratap Rudra Maharaj. So Ramananda Rai could have said to Pratap Rudra Maharaj that, okay, now you want to meet Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, you have to double my salary, then only I'll make you meet, I will recommend. No, he was very simple. He said, oh, you also want to meet. He was the one who was canvassing on behalf of Pratap Rudra Maharaj. He did not try to take advantage of this position by himself. But Sanatana Goswami, because it was coming on his spiritual life, or it was coming on his sometimes existence itself, then he has to use it. So on his own initiative, devotee should not use. Neither devotee should be certainly careful of not getting cheated. Why he should be careful of not getting cheated? Because these resources are meant for Krishna's service, and some materialistic person is taking it away. So that is a very great loss. Like one devotee in the train, he was just sleeping very peacefully, and his whole luggage got stolen. And now that had so many things, but it is meant for Krishna's service, isn't it? It is meant to be used in Krishna's service. But if it is not, then that such thieves and rogues, if they are squandering it, so devotee has to protect that as Krishna's property. So why devotee protects his own property also from these thieves and rogues? He tries to protect because of it is to be used in Krishna's service. It is meant for Krishna's service. Like that.
Only for spiritual life, majorly, not for us.
Spiritual life, devotees, for devotee, everything is spiritual life. There is no material life. His job is also spiritual life.
Like this one laptop came to that person told me that some parts are remaining to send. He told me tomorrow I'm going to send it. So I told him that after payment, after the parts come, I will send you. आपको अभी भरोसा नहीं कि आधा part में भेज दिया. Emotionally like that. So but because in devotee circle someone says like that, you said till now 1 month I haven't sent.
Yeah. No, we cannot be naive in such regard. So because your laptop is meant for Krishna service, so we cannot be naive. We have to fight.
But he said in a way sometimes because in devotee circle he become so much like ऐसा क्या bro ऐसा कैसे तो we become like it. So he
because devotees have character, we can trust them. These people have no character. They have no integrity. So how we can trust? Devotees are very well known. This person is not even known to you. How can you trust him? We can even sue him in court if required. Of course, sometimes we cannot do anything about it. That's but we have to try. We have to try. There was something in Prabhupada. Once it so happened that see, there was in Prabhupada time. It so happened that there was one Siddha Swarupananda. His group got deviated, and they were there in New Zealand and Hawaii, these two places. So they were following the devotional service only, but they didn't want to be with proper ISKCON. They want to be on their own. So in this way, they got little distracted. So Prabhupada used to encourage them somehow, but he was not so happy with them. So that time, it so happened that some devotees of their group were very fanatic. And they went to one place, meat factory, and they tried to explode that meat factory with a bomb. Their group people. But in the due course, what happened? They themselves died because the blast happened. They were not knowing how to handle this bomb. So they themselves only died. And there was a big news in newspaper. Everywhere headlines were there. About Hare Krishnas. So they're not saying always Hare Krishnas. They seem to be chanters, like that some newspaper mentioned. There seem to be monks like that. But some particular 1-2 newspapers in Fiji, they reported Hare Krishnas were trying to blast like this meat factory. Prabhupada was highly irritated and he became so angry on devotees. He said, they are simply spoiling my reputation. But 1-2 particular newspaper, they were like, acting more. Some newspaper said maybe they seemed like Hare Krishnas, but the Hare Krishna temple has totally disclaimed them. They have not accepted that they were their members because they were anyway deviated sect. But then 1-2 newspapers were saying very emphatically that these are Hare Krishnas only. Prabhupada said, Prabhupada said, immediately send them letter. They should immediately send the letter of apology. Otherwise, we are going to sue them in court. Newspapers. Prabhupada was very strong about it. So they had to send the letter of apology. Otherwise, Prabhupada said, we are going to sue them in court, and we are going to take. So the point is that devotee, he should not get carried away by some emotional propaganda of people. I remember once I was coming from station to this thing, camp temple. So that time, so he said me 20 rupees. So that time I couldn't get anything. It was that time 12 rupees, but 20 rupees he said. I said, okay, 20 rupees, And then he came and then he stopped me on the opposite side only. He did not brought me even. He was not ready to bring me even to the gate. Already is taking 8 rupees extra. He's not ready to even drop me till the gate also. I said, no, you have to come. You have to take me to the gate. And he started giving me gali like anything. I was in Saffron. He was giving gali. I said, you rascal, if you don't, I'll not give you single penny. You do anything. I was so angry on him. And then he had to drop me there. I did not, I said, you do anything. I did not give him any gali. I said, you do anything. I'm not giving you single penny. I'll give you 10, 12 rupees then. If you are already taking 8 rupees extra, but you are not dropping me on the gate, you are taking 8 rupees extra. He said, I am not going to give you more than 12 rupees. You take 12 rupees and get off. And he gave me gali. I said, yeah, I don't care what you are. Then he had to drop me there. Like that. So we have to be careful, we cannot afford. Devotees should not be sentimental in dealing with outside people because they know. So from our side, we don't want to be. It is not that from my side, I will give him out of 20 rupees, I'll give him phata note and give 10 rupees only. No. From our side, we want to be very as honest and plain as possible. But if they are trying to cheat, we cannot afford to be cheated like that. We should try our best to defend. Sometimes opposite party may be very powerful. Then we have to just, so it requires some intelligence also. Sometimes opposite party may be so much powerful that they can destroy us. Then we have to be more. We have to then take a back seat. Like that. Like when Prabhupada first time came in Delhi after this thing. So that time that taxi wala was asking too much money, and Prabhupada argued him for almost half an hour or so. He's shouting on that taxi wala. But then finally there was no other option. So Prabhupada gave him that 40 rupees which he had carried from India to America at 40 rupees Prabhupada gave him. Because it was too costly. 40 was not the cost. He was asking almost double cost or something like that. But Prabhupada gave a good fight to him. But there was no other option. So we have to be we have to deal according to the what is possible.
That becomes beautiful if someone gives the like you were saying. मतलब earlier कुछ नहीं लगता था. We not habituated to hear.
So that's why we have to be we have to learn to be shrewd also. It is not that we get carried away. We should know when to be soft, when to be hard. Devotee is Vajradapi Kathoram also. Devotee is not only Kusumadapi Kumara. So then how do you understand his Vajradapi Kathoram? It is not, that is sentimentalism. If we don't, we cannot do it properly. It is simply a sentimentalism. Okay. At least we have to try. That's what my point is. If nothing, like you are giving example of laptop, you have to really try from your side. But if nothing still can happen, then what can be done? It's like you have to accept is at a will of providence. But it is not that one doesn't do out of weakness. So weakness, devotee is not the one who is weak. It is not like that. Devotee is, do you think Arjun was weak? In fact, before fighting, he was weak. Before Bhagavad Gita was weak. After Bhagavad Gita, he became strong in fighting, isn't it? So devotee is not does not mean that he is weak person, but he will do the needful in his life. So this Bhagavad Gita 7.28. Yesham tvantagatam papam janana punya karmana
Jananam punya karmana
te dvanda moha nirmukta bhajante mam drudavrata. Translation: persons who have acted piously in previous lives and in this life and whose sinful actions are completely eradicated are freed from the dualities of delusion and engage themselves in my service with determination. Purport: those eligible for elevation to the transcendental position are mentioned in this verse. For those who are sinful, atheistic, foolish and deceitful, it is very difficult to transcend the duality of desire and hate. Only those who have passed their lives in practicing the regulative principles of religion, who have acted piously and who have conquered sinful reactions, can accept devotional service and gradually rise to the pure knowledge of Supreme Personality of Godhead. Then gradually they can meditate in trance on the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This is the process of being situated on the spiritual platform. This elevation is possible in Krishna consciousness in association of great devotees, in the association of pure devotees. For in the association of great devotees, one can be delivered from delusion. So what is the basic criteria for fixity in spiritual life?
Free from sins.
Freedom from sinful activities. Yesham tu antagatam papam. When those who have become freedom from sinful activities, they can become fixed in devotional service. So as we are discussing about mind being always agitated, so mind is agitated because of material attachments, which put us into dualities of delusion. Prabhupada translates very nicely. The dualities of delusion. One gets always disturbed because of that. And that's how one cannot fix oneself in spiritual life. So, but that's why Prabhupada says that only those who have followed regulative principles and who have acted very piously and they have become free from sinful activities, only they can fix up themselves in spiritual life. Otherwise, one cannot be fixed. One will be, one will get carried away by these dualities of this world. Just like the boat which is not anchored. Bhagavad Gita, Krishna gives this example. The boat which is not anchored, it gets carried away by the waves of ocean, right? Similarly, unless and until person has acted piously, he has become free from sinful reactions. Till that time, he cannot be fixed. But what is the way? So, what is the way of becoming free from sinful reactions? Such elevation is possible in the association of pure devotees. So one can become free from such things by association of pure devotees. So So if we are able to understand that our mind is disturbed and agitated, if at all you feel, then we have to what is our natural conclusion?
We are sinful. We are not yet free from sins.
We have not acted piously in past. It is because of impious activities we have done. It is because of activities in materialistic platform, because of material attachment and impious activities. Actually, material attachment naturally lead to impious activities. Bodily concept forces one to act impiously. So the agitated mind is the conclusion of impious activities. But it is not. The good news is that it is not permanent. We can get rid of it, and the first element in this is that one has to take association of pure devotees, because only that can deliver us from delusion. So Prabhupada explains that in the further part of the purport. Can somebody read?
It is stated in the Srimad Bhagavatam that if one actually wants to be liberated, he must render service to the devotees. Bhat sevam dwaram bahu mukte. But one who associates with materialistic people is on the path leading to the darkest prison of existence. Tamodvaram nishitam sangisandam. All the devotees of the Lord traverse this earth just to recover the conditioned souls from their religion. The impersonalists do not know that forgetting their constitutional position as subordinate to the Supreme Lord is the greatest violation of God's law. Unless one is reinstated in his own constitutional position, it is not possible to understand the Supreme Personality or to be fully engaged in his transcendental loving service with determination.
Yeah. So the whole essence of purification of heart actually lies in the association and service to great devotees of the Lord. So this that's why, if you remember, I don't know which forum I was speaking this, but the symptoms of spiritual advancement are steadiness, absorption, and pleasing of the Vaishnavas. These are the symptoms of spiritual advancement. Steadily practicing Krishna consciousness, year after year, continuing to chant 16 rounds, following regulative principles, serving the Lord, taking shelter of Shastras, year after year, continuing it. Not just did for some years, 1-2 years, and giving it up, but continuing it year after year. So many of you are doing it already, year after year. Many of you are chanting since 8 years, 10 years. So this is called as steadiness. And steadiness also, in the sense, we should improve also. Not that, year after year I am inattentive in chanting. Continuing to be inattentive year after year. Continuing to year after year, I am not feeling sadhana card. So this is not steadiness. Steadiness is in positive sense. We are improving. And then eventually that steadiness will lead to this thing, pleasure of Vaishnavas. Vaishnavas will be pleased with us by steady devotional service, and that by the blessings and pleasure of Vaishnavas, one can actually attain absorption. Actually, it is not possible to be absorbed in devotional service by our own endeavors. It's very difficult, because we see, as we were discussing, the material attachments are so strong. It's very tough to be absorbed in Krishna consciousness. It is only possible. That's why Prabhupada is, you see the translation of the verse, Krishna says something, Prabhupada is giving some else purport. Prabhupada is focusing something else. Why? Because he's focusing on the solution. Solution is association and service to the devotees of the Lord. That is the only solution. So that's why, actually we have to be very, very careful not to lose association of devotees in our life. This is such an important aspect. Unfortunately, many times, due to some petty differences or petty heart burnings or petty reasons, disagreements, we distance ourselves from association of Vaishnavas. But Prabhupada very clearly mentions that devotional service without association is simply hallucination. It is simply a hallucination. Actually, one cannot progress. One may make a show and one may superficially practice. Some progress may happen. It is not snail speed progress, because no, without association, without association and service to Vaishnavas, it is really difficult to progress in spiritual life. We may imagine that I am practicing some spiritual life, but frankly speaking, it is not possible. The force of maternal nature is very strong, very, very strong. And you experience, right? Many of you have experienced it, how much strong it is. Some of you are at home, isn't it? So you are experiencing how the force of, very slowly, but very in a gradual process, Maya Devi convinces this is not required, isn't it? That's what Maya convinces. What is the required? What is need to get up early? I am at home. Who is taking attendance? I don't have to write Mahamudra. It is not required to get up early, isn't it? So Maya convinces us like this, slowly. So that's why association of Vaishnavas is such a crucial thing, because they are the ones who are available to us to remind, hey Prabhuji, don't do this, don't do like that. It is so crucial. So of course, so that's why the most intelligent devotees are those who remain in association of devotees. And yes, the modern days there have been another platform, one we can say one middle platform of association of devotees, which is not absolute platform, but still it is there. That is online association. So that is also good. At least that way also one can take association.
YouTube or like this Zoom, communication should
Anything, some way or other, at least associating with Vaishnava.
because if we take just one way aspect, that means we will select those lectures only like which we like.
Yeah, he's asking that if we take only one way association, then it is only we make the choices. So that's what we say. I said that it is a mediocre association. It's not the absolute association because it is based on our own free choices, and online nobody can chastise us much. Nobody can catch our ear. As soon as somebody starts speaking some strong point, we can turn off. But physically we cannot turn off person, right? So that's why it is mediocre association. It's not a full association. Or we have choice, some kind of people, boys, what they do, they turn on this thing and they go away. And we say, hey, are you there? Are you there? No, because he has gone. He's only turned on it. Or sometimes, person may turn it on and do his own mobile things, WhatsApp and all that. Chalo, background mein chalte raho, apna mobile, WhatsApp, email. So that's why it's not a solid association. So that's why I said it's mediocre, because it is not a perfect association, but still, sometimes there is no other option. Something is better than nothing. Blind uncle is better than no uncle at all. It's that rule. And but if devotee is really serious and sincere, then he can be fully benefited by that association also. If he's sincerely hearing, sincerely taking the whole, what do you say, the whole thing, he's very sincerely taking, and very making notes and attentively listening, then he will get the same benefit as physical association also. Because like after Guru's departure, his association is available like this only. So is it that we cannot get his association? This association is available, Vani. But it depends totally on the sincerity of devotee. Okay, so this is this is how by process of bhakti one can actually purify one's mind, and such mind can be fixed in devotional service. So it's a both way thing. By bhakti we can fix the mind, and the fixed mind we can do bhakti properly, and by bhakti again we can fix the mind, and then by fixed mind we can do bhakti properly. So it's like a two-way reaction. So we have to do both the things. That's why we have to fix the mind further and further in devotional service, and devotional service in turn will purify the mind, which will in turn enable us to fix the mind more in devotional service. So this is the primary method. So for that, what is bhakti? Rishikena Rishikesha Sevanam Bhakti Ruchyate. Means we have to use our tendencies in Krishna's service. We have to engage our senses in Krishna's service. That is bhakti. Rishikena Rishikesha Sevanam. So, and also daya. Daya means what? Engaging senses in the service of, as a compassion for outside people, other people, giving them mercy of Krishna. That is called as daya. So we have to engage into these two activities: Jivadaya, Vaishnav Seva, and Namaruchi. So that thing will help us. Now, second aspect of how to get purified of these bad sanskaras of mind, that is secondary method. That is, you can say these yogis and gyanis, what they apply. So that is written in 6th canto, Srimad Bhagavatam, 6th canto, 1st chapter, verse number 13-14. 6th canto, 1st chapter, verse number 13-14. Tapasa brahmacharyena shamena cha damena vacha tyagena satya shauchabhyam yamena niyamena va dehavag buddhijam dhira dharmadhyaha shraddhayanvitaah क्षिपन्त्यघं महदपि वेणुगुल्ममिवानलः. Please read translation.
To concentrate the mind, one must observe a life of celibacy and not fall down. One must undergo the austerities of voluntarily giving up the sense enjoyment. One must then control the mind and senses, giving charity, be truthful, clean, and non-violent. Follow the regulative principles and regularly chant the holy names of the Lord. Thus, a sober and faithful person who knows the religious principles is temporarily purified of all sins performed with his body, words, and mind. These sins are like the dried leaves of creeper beneath a bamboo tree, which may be burned by fire, although their roots remain to grow again at their first opportunity.
Purport.
Tapa is explained in the Smriti Shastra as follows: Manasa Chendriyana Cha Aikagriya Parama Tapaha. Complete control of the mind and senses and their complete concentration on one kind of activity is called Tapaha. Our Krishna consciousness movement is teaching people how to concentrate the mind on the devotional service.
What we are teaching?
To concentrate the mind.
Concentrate the mind on devotional service. It is International Society for Krishna Activities.
Consciousness.
Krishna consciousness, right? Not Krishna activities. Krishna consciousness means what?
Conscious of Krishna.
To concentrate the mind on devotional service. So to the degree we are concentrating mind on devotional service, to that degree we are Krishna conscious. So this is tapasya, isn't it? Our mind always wants to wander, but to concentrate it in one, is a tapasya. But devotees have to do this tapasya. Why one has to do tapasya? Why should one do tapasya?
Then only
will be purified only.
Please, Lord.
Fixed in spiritual.
Please,
It
Lord.
pleases the Lord. Okay, it pleases the Lord.
Become fixed in spiritual life.
One become fixed in spiritual life by doing tapasya. Yes. Actually, tapasya purifies the mind. And this is the price to be paid. Nobody, recent lecture, if you hear Gopal Krishna Maharaj was telling in that Bhadra Purnima lecture, he was telling, unless until you do some tapasya, you cannot get bhakti. Which, to gain something, we have to sacrifice something. If we want to just follow the whims of our mind, then we cannot get bhakti. But if we want bhakti, then we have to do this tapasya of concentrating the mind on the Supreme Lord and not just allowing the mind to wander all the time, do everything he likes. So this is first class tapa. First class tapa means to concentrate on Supreme Lord. So mind may wander, mind may demand so many things, but we have to bring it under control. So that tapasya has to be done. To no pain, no gain. Isn't it? Without some pain, it is painful. Tapasya means painful only. It is not going to be very pleasing. It is painful. But when we have to voluntarily accept this pain in order to gain some higher gain. In order for to obtain some higher gain, you have to voluntarily accept some pain. Then only something is possible. Without tapasya, you cannot get anything. One may simply chant and dance and eat and this thing. That is all right. But if you really want to progress in spiritual life, even to continue doing it is also tapasya, right? In the beginning, we see boys are very enthusiastic for chanting, dancing, prasadam. They are very nice. But when we are told you continue doing it now, day after day, week after week, now you continue to come, continue to chant. Then some newness goes away. Once newness goes away, it becomes very difficult. It becomes tapasya. Only those people who are ready for this tapasya, they only can go on. You see, otherwise so many boys come, but they are not ready for this tapasya. पहले पहले बहुत अच्छा लगता है. अरे voice में आते ही you see first 1 month boys are so enthusiastic. No, they'll get up very early and they'll enthusiastically dance and they'll very strictly follow the things. They're very innocent. They'll bow down to every devotee. But real taste is after 1 month. How much who is sincere, isn't it? You have experience, right? So many years we are shifting boys. 1 महीने के बाद फिर उनका चालू हो जाता है. Mind starts giving trouble. Why? Because this is tapasya. To continue doing this, although the process is very blissful, we may say, Prabhupada used to very simply say, just chant and dance and take prasad. But can we do it lifelong? Because passion is so strong. Living entity, as long as it is new, one continues to do it. But once the newness goes away, it becomes old thing. Then it becomes tapasya. So only the person who is convinced of this tapasya, he can go ahead. Person who is not convinced, he is coming only by superficial means, he cannot go on. He cannot go on. So this applies to even senior devotees also. Because at every level, some tapasya has to be done. Now we are doing almost, we may say regularly, we are doing this chanting, reading, hearing, dancing, taking prasad, we are doing. But still at our level, there is higher tapasya. Now, there is a different level of tapasya. Just like at every standard, there is a different level of exam. When you go in 5th standard, there is some level of exam. When you go to 10th standard, we cannot say that, nahi, mujhe 5th standard ka paper chahiye. No, you are 10th standard. So there will be higher exam. But then you get higher qualifications also, isn't it? Somebody has passed 5th standard. What job he will get? Maybe better. Somewhere he will get. Somebody has passed 10th standard, he'll get better job. Somebody has passed engineering, he'll get better job, right? So same way, when we pass higher and higher tests, we do higher and higher tapasya, then we get more and more mercy of the Lord, and we become more and more fixed in the devotional service of the Lord. So that's why it is essential that this tapasya has to be done. Yeah.
Prabhuji, before you told this regulated lifestyle and now this tapasya, so can you just elaborate? Because regulated lifestyle has to be maintained. Tapasya will karna. So
Regulated lifestyle itself is a tapasya. Because mind wants to act unrestrictedly, but regulating it itself is a tapasya. Tapasya means what? We cannot allow the mind to do what it likes, and regulation mind never likes. Mind wants to do unlimitedly, just wander, just go here, go there. So it's a tapasya, like kadha. It's tapasya. Mind doesn't like it, isn't it? But we have to take it. It's a tapasya. Mind may say, okay, who cares? Lockdown is there. Let us go and wander in the city. But it's tapasya not to go. So like that. So regulating itself is a tapasya.
Regulation may not be tapasya for body, because he's
It
getting
is tapasya for body
Nahi,
also.
like he's sleeping at time, he's getting at time, like in that way. But it will be tapasya for mind.
Yeah, it depends. It is tapasya for body also to some degree, because we have to eat regulated way. It's a tapasya for body. Sleeping is not the only thing. Yukta ahara viharasya, yukta chashtasya karmasu, yukta swapnavabodhasya, yukta ahar. First tapasya is regulated eating. Then tapasya is regulated sleeping. So these are all tapasya. Regulated work, regulated recreation, regulated. So these are all tapasya. Okay, go ahead.
This is the first tapa, brahmacharya. The life of celibacy has 8 aspects. One should not think of woman, speak about sex life, dally with woman, look lustfully at woman, talk intimately with a woman, or decide to engage in sexual intercourse. Nor should one endure for sex life or engage in sex life. One should not even think of a woman or look at them. to say nothing of talking with them. It is called the first class brahmacharya. If a brahmachari or sannyasi talks with a woman in a secluded place, naturally there will be possibilities of sex life without anyone's knowledge. Therefore, a complete brahmachari practices just the opposite. If one is perfect brahmachari, he can very easily control the mind and senses, giving charity, speak truthfully, and so forth. To begin, however, one must control the tongue and the process of eating.
Yeah. So before that, this brahmacharya, these 8 aspects of brahmacharya are mentioned. Of course, we know that there are 2 types of brahmachari. One is grahastha brahmachari, one is brahmachari. So brahmachari means one who doesn't at all get married or like that, and grahastha brahmachari means one who practices sense control even in grahastha life. So these are various aspects. So here he is telling that if one is not careful, then there will be possibility of sex life without anyone's knowledge also. Sex life without one's knowledge means night falls, masturbation. This is sex life without one's knowledge. So that's why we have to follow this brahmacharya in both the ashramas, grahastha ashram as well as in brahmacharya ashram. So grahastha ashram brahmacharya means restricted sex life. Brahmacharya ashram brahmacharya means no sex life. So as long as you are not married means no sex life, and after marriage restricted sex life. So now how it begins? Tapasya begins with
Brahmacharya.
How tapasya begins? No, what is written here?
Control the tongue.
Control of the tongue. And the process of eating. Yeah, so now you read. Prabhupada explains the further part of the purport.
In the Bhakti Marg, the path of devotional service, one must strictly follow the regulative principles by first controlling the tongue. Sevanamukhe hi jivadu. Swayam eva spurti adha. The tongue, jiva, can be controlled if one chants the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, does not speak of any subject other than those concentrating concerning Krishna, and does not taste anything not offered to Krishna. If one can control the tongue in this way, brahmacharya and other purifying processes will automatically follow. It will be explained in the next verse that the path of devotion service is completely perfect and is therefore superior to the path of fruitive activities and the path of knowledge. Quoting from the Vedas, Srila Veera Raghava Acharya explains that austerity involves observing fast as fully as possible. Tapasa Srila Rupa Goswami has also advised that Atyahar, too much eating, is an impediment to advancement in spiritual life. Also in Bhagavad Gita 6.17, Krishna says, Yukta ahara viharasya, yukta chetasya karmasu, yukta swapnanubodhasya, yukta bhavati dukkha. Yoga bhavati dukkha. He who is temperate in his habits of eating, sleeping, working and recreation can mitigate all material pains by practicing the yoga system. In text 14, the word dhira, meaning those who are undisturbed under all circumstances, is very significant. Krishna tells Arjun in Bhagavad Gita 2.40, Matra sparshasdu konteya shito ushnasutta dukkada agma paino nityas tam tikshasva bharata. O son of Kunti, the non-permanent appearance of happiness and distress and their disappearance in the due course are like the appearance and disappearance of winter and summer season. They arise from sense perception. O Scion of Bharata, one must learn to tolerate them without being disturbed. In material life, there are many disturbances, Adhyatmika, Adidaivika and Adibhautik. One who has learned to tolerate these disturbances under all circumstances is called Dhira.
Yeah. So how it begins is with controlling the tongue. It's very important. Actually, tongue is you can say the main sense amongst all the senses, and if the tongue is not controlled, it leads to a lot of problems, because when the tongue is uncontrolled, all other senses will be uncontrolled. In Nectar of Instruction also Prabhupada writes, they are in three things are in one line: tongue, belly and genitals. If one cannot control tongue, one cannot actually control all these two things also. So that's why tongue has to be controlled. Atyahar has to be controlled. If one eats too much, what will be the result?
Indigestion.
Indigestion will happen. He will sleep too much. And if he sleeps too much, then what will happen? He'll waste time. What else will happen by sleeping too much? Tamo guna will increase. And what is the result of tamo guna? Nidra alasya pramad. Okay. They are symptoms of tamo guna. What is the result of tamo guna?
Will not be
Increase of lust.
Lust increases. Okay. Yes, correct. Lust increases.
will not able to focus on devotion.
We will not be able to focus on devotion service.
We will lose to follow the strength of regulative principles.
He cannot follow the strength. Basically, tamoguna leads to degradation. Urdhvam gachanti sattvastha, madhye tishtanti rajasa, jaganya guna vrittistha, adho gachanti tamasa. So you understood the whole chain? First is overeating, leads to oversleeping. Oversleeping leads to tamoguna increase. Tamoguna increase leads to degradation. So that's why eating has to be controlled. We see that sometimes in Krishna consciousness, that day we were discussing that our spoons are also so big, and the eating is so much, aggravated. So devotee, new devotees, it's all right. He may eat, too much, no problem. But as we are progressing now in Krishna consciousness, we have passed some 1-2 years. So we have to be careful about our eating. Not that we eat like in English, that term is called as glutton. Glutton means someone keeps on eating so much. Sometimes some fellows, they eat 9 o'clock also so heavy, like eating like anything. And we see that then the morning becomes very difficult to get up, isn't it? It becomes very difficult to get up in the morning. Have you experienced it ever? If you eat heavy in the night, morning becomes very difficult. So what is the symptom? That shows that tamoguna has increased. Immediately effect is seen. Tamoguna has increased, isn't it? So we are not able to get up in the morning. So that's why we should regulate. So it is not that in Krishna consciousness we are told to fast. Certainly there is some regulated fasting, like today is fasting till noon. So these fastings are one should follow very diligently because it is very helpful. This tapasya is very good for control of the mind, purifying mind. But then apart from that, we are not told to do everyday fasting. Neither we are told that eat only once in a day or something. One may eat even 3 times. That is okay. One may eat, but one should eat only what is required and not overeat. Overeating means unnecessary eating, more than required also. So that is very important understanding actually. One should eat only so one can eat up to one's satisfaction. One can eat up to what one requires, but one should not eat too much. And especially one should not eat in the night too much. It is very deadly. So sometimes on the feast days, devotees let loose their senses so much that they don't care what is going to. That's what Prabhuji was telling yesterday, that whatever decisions we make, we have to always think how it is going to affect my sadhana. So we don't care morning what will happen if I eat too much in the late night in the feast day, isn't it? One just keeps on eating like a glutton. What is going to happen? Next day there will be very difficult to get up. It will be very difficult to chant rounds. One will be always sleepy and dozy and all that, isn't it? So one has to control. So fortunately in bhakti we see that we are not told to eat, we are not given restricted, only 2 chapatis, only 1 chapati, it is not told. So when we eat to one's satisfaction, when we eat, one can, it is not that one has to remain hungry. But, we have to be watchful, alert of not too much eating also, which is, harmful. And as you all said also, there will be diseases also of overeating, isn't it? Due to overeating, more diseases are caused, not because of undereating, less eating, right? So, so it is required, to be controlled. What if one feels hungry at 9 o'clock in the night? One can take milk, okay.
Very light.
Yeah, take some little prasad, it's all right. One can take little prasad, but not that one is just, arey, chalo, such nice, prasad is there. Let me just eat and eat like anything. Heavy stomach. Actually it will lead to a lot of problems in the night also. It will lead to nightfall. One will lose semen in the night if one eats night. So now those who are at home, they face this, they may be facing this difficulty a lot, because sometimes cooking starts at 9 o'clock in the night, and one cannot avoid also. The parents will force you to eat. So then what to do? One can take little. Don't eat too much. One can take little. Little bit can be taken. So this is how one has to follow the controlled way. This is called as tapasya. Tapasya means being controlled. So as you are saying, regulation. So this eating regulation is the first thing in spiritual life. Rohit Pro is telling, cook yourself. Okay, you can cook yourself. Yeah, you can cook yourself early in the evening if it is possible. That is best. I think he is doing it himself. Rohit Pro is doing. So that is also good if you are allowed and you can cook. That is best thing. You can cook by 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, and take dinner by 7:30, and be peaceful.
Tells about eating only.
Yeah. So it is very important actually. So although Prabhupada has not given us much restrictions in terms of quantity of eating, but at the same time Prabhupada is very clearly mentioned in these purports. So we have to be diligent. And as I said again, that although we are not told to remain hungry, it is not that somehow or other just remain hungry. That's what Raghunath Das Goswami and six Goswami used to do. We are not given such strictures, but that doesn't mean that we become uncontrolled also in eating. So one can eat to one's satisfaction, but not eat too much. That's the important point. Yeah.
You told one should eat till satisfaction.
Satisfaction of not of mind, satisfaction of belly. Mind satisfaction, unless until it becomes like like sweets are there, unless until the teeth starts paining or the stomach starts paining, one will not be satisfied. So it's not satisfaction of mind. Satisfaction of belly means 50% with food, 25% with water, 25% with air. That is called as satisfaction. Like that. So these are the things which are secondary things. Tapasa brahmacharyena shamena damena cha. So all that thing. Austerities, celibacy, controlling mind, restraining senses, renunciation, truth, cleanliness, sober behavior, not agitated in contact with Maya, and religiosity. So these are the secondary ways by which. So which one is required to purify our mind of bad sanskaras? Primary or secondary? Both are required. So that's what, that is the problem. Sometimes we see only primary is required. I'm chanting the Prabhuji, so I can do overeating. No, but you can't chant properly if you do overeating. So that's why both are required. Once you are sense controlled fully, then first, second is not required. Secondary is not required. Till that time, secondary is also required. Like that. So in this way, what will happen that one will be eventually uplifted to the mode of goodness by doing these two things. And when the mind comes to mode of goodness, then there will be, one can spring up, one can jump up to the mode of transcendental goodness, and one can go back to Godhead. That is possible. So, but for that, actually, one has to elevate oneself to the mode of goodness. Now we were talking about chanting and hearing as the primary thing, but are we available during chanting and hearing? That is the first point also. During chanting, if you are doing so many other hundreds of activities, then how one can be chanting properly? Prabhuji was telling yesterday, Mahatma Prabhu, that if our mind is wandering everywhere while doing chanting, that means we are not chanting. He told, very strong statement it was. That means we are not chanting. Sometimes we see, devotees while chanting, after every 2 rounds, they get up and go on wander here and there. How can the chanting be effective with this? Impossible. That's what I was telling somewhere. I think here this forum, that it takes some few rounds to even warm up chanting. But then as soon as we get into gear of chanting, by that time we just get up and go and somewhere do some other things. How is it possible to chant properly? And how can mind ever be coming to goodness? It is impossible. One may chant for millions of lifetimes, still it will never happen. So one has to take out some time exclusively for chanting. At least 6-7 rounds should be continuously chanted. Sitting. Ideal chanting means you sit at one place and all 16 rounds you complete. That is the ideal chanting. But maybe if you are feeling sleepy, we may stand up and all that. But it is not that while chanting, we do management, we do this arrangement, that arrangement. That way we cannot achieve perfection at all. Similarly, during Mangal Aarti or other Aartis also, if you are engaged into hundreds of other things, or while hearing classes, doing surfing here and there, while hearing classes, these kind of things can never lead to actually purification of mind. Mind will always remain agitated, So to the degree, so at least that's why I'm saying at least on an external way, first of all, regulate external things. So that is also tapasya. Tapasya is what? Sit at one place and chat. That is tapasya. Don't just wander here and there. Don't invent services. Don't imagine services. Give priority to chanting. That is tapasya. Mind will tell, अरे नहीं कितने देर से बैठो उठो कुछ तो करो थोड़ा इधर देखो उधर देखो क्या है ये. No, sit. Force mind to do that. That's what is called as tapasya. And then during, because we are engineers, we have got a lot of kida. What is kida? Technical kida bahut hai hame. So we want to do a lot of technical stuff here and there while Mangal Aarti, all this thing, while chanting, this is all kida actually, all reading, hearing, that time we want to do a lot of other activities. We want to surf on internet, reply WhatsApp messages, or do actually that's why these instruments have totally spoiled our concentration. You see, without instruments, you will be very peaceful and concentrated. As soon as you have instruments, with you, mobile is there, laptop is there. That's what Prabhuji was telling. Flush them in toilet, he was telling. Why? Because they distract us solidly always. We cannot focus, isn't it? While hearing, if there are hundreds of other things to do, we cannot focus. While chanting, if you have hundreds of things to do, we cannot focus. While doing aartis, attending aartis, you can think how much really are we every day singing Mangalarti or Narsimharti. How much are we really singing? Are we singing Purvashtakam? Are we singing these 8 prayers? At least my experience is that even though I am not doing any other activity, still mind wanders so much even during Mangalarti. I think it is only my experience. Maybe all of you have such a concentration that, aapka ekdam, you are fully absorbed in Mangalarti singing. Are we really praying to Guru? During this, are we saying Sakshat Haritvena Samasta Shastri, Guru Maharaj, you are non-different than Krishna and you are a very dear servant of Krishna? Are we praying that? So if we don't do these things, how do we expect any purification of mind? And then when we keep on crying that, oh, I am feeling weak and this and that. I am not telling to you, it applies to me also. But my point was that even while externally being controlled, and doing exclusively spiritual activities, still mind wanders so much. Then if we are doing so many other activities while doing this hearing, chanting and reading and aartis, how do we expect ever to control the mind? There is no question of controlling the mind. So that's why this tapasya has to be done in the primary aspect also. What is that tapasya? Tapasya means to sit and chant, or stand and chant, and not take up other things while chanting. At least some solid rounds, minimum 6 to 7 rounds are chanted continuously. That is called as tapasya. Then it is some solid impact. If possible, all 16 rounds. But if not, at least some rounds. And then, during Aarti is being present, trying to concentrate, trying to focus. During Narsimha Aarti, are we praying to Narsimha Dev? During Tulsi Aarti, are we praying to Tulsi Maharani actually? So this is called as tapasya. And then, not doing a lot of managements here and there. Sometimes some things are necessary, but we do the necessary and finish it off. That's it. Not every 2 rounds some management comes. Every 2 rounds some devotees coming and talking and asking us different things. During class also so many devotees come and ask. Of course, I understand that sometimes there is a need, but we have to always think that whether it is really a need. And yeah, mobile, my God, so many phone calls keep coming, isn't it? During classes and all that. It is not that we have to attend all the phone calls. Why not, we tell them that I'll call you later. Send a message, I'll call you later, or don't pick up at all. Is it such a crucial phone call? We have to ask. While hearing, is it such a crucial phone call? Okay, some devotee may want to know the Zoom link. Okay, that phone call is crucial phone call. Maybe he also wants to hear. So that's, I would consider that as a crucial phone call. But you make your arrangement properly beforehand so that everybody knows the Zoom link, that he doesn't have to call you, isn't it? So, but yeah, still some crucial phone calls may be there. But not that every phone call has to be attended. Means what? If you want to attend every phone call during hearing, means what? It indicates what? Our priority is phone call and not hearing. Hearing is such a side activity. Oh, time pass chal raha hai. Hearing means time pass chal raha hai kuch to hearing ke naam pe. Main activity is to attend phone calls. That's what we are doing. So how do we expect that our mind will be focused ever by such kind of devotional practice? How is it possible to do? So tapasya has to be done in these regards. That's why Kadam Khan was yesterday telling that we can make a policy in voice that no phone call, no phone only. You submit your phone. You remember that time we were doing this. We had gone for 1-2 times outings. That time we all devotees we told that you submit your phone now, no phone, like that. He also recommended yesterday, Mahatma Prabhu, if you remember, that you give fast from phone, fast from phone only on Sunday. Generally it is tough on Sunday. Other days we may be able to fast little bit. Sunday maximum phone calls come, right? So actually we have to be sober and understand that what is necessary, what is not necessary. We can always call back later, right? I am not saying that don't call, don't use phone. Maybe it is necessary now, but we can always call back after class is over, after aarti is over, after chanting is over. But yeah, necessary phone call means some first years are calling and they want to attend class, but they don't know. So such phone call is a necessary phone, which can be picked up. But you have to be, that's why there has to be alertness, not that we just get carried away by phone calls and by management and by other devotees talking this that, such distractions. With such external distractions going on, spiritual life cannot be practiced properly. And if we cannot control external distractions, internal distraction is impossibility only. It will never be able to happen. So that's why at least first start on external. Rahesham Pru's policy is for himself is what? At least he expects from other, at least from brahmacharis also, is what? Don't go out of temple hall at all during morning program. You have to be in morning program, temple hall, not at all going out. And one may give reason, what Babuji, what about number one? Okay. I mean, like that we can bring out many. So certainly we are not telling that you control your nature's call. That is not being told. But understand the principle and decide what is really necessary. Like nature's call is a necessary thing that need not be controlled, but we have to really think which is necessary and which can be answered later on, like that. So then at least by externally controlling, then at least we were reducing some percentage of the distractions, and then eventually then we will have some some consciousness will remain for dealing with internal distractions, which is a huge mountainous work practically. So but if we are doing external also, then multiple mountains are there to cross, like that. So when we do these things, then eventually the mind will come to the mode of goodness, and then eventually actually we'll be able to experience spiritual life. Otherwise till that time there is something ritual going on. International Society for Krishna activities is going on, but Krishna consciousness will not go on. It will not become International Society for Krishna consciousness. So these secondary activities are alone also not sufficient. They have to be always accompanied by primary activities, because by secondary activities sinful reactions can be eradicated, but not the sinful tendencies. But nevertheless, by coming in mode of goodness, it is helpful. It prepares us for spiritual life. It is always very helpful. So we have to, as Prabhuji said yesterday, I will end with this just one small example. As Prabhuji said yesterday, a serious devotee means he has to arrange his life keeping Krishna consciousness into focus and priority. He has to arrange his lifestyle like that. So we have to give food of Krishna consciousness to all the senses, and we have to expose ourselves to good samskaras everywhere. that is the real arrangement. That arrangement we have to do in our life, by which we'll expose ourselves to always good samskaras, we'll always give good food of Krishna consciousness to to our senses. Then the purification of heart will happen, will come to mode of goodness, and eventually we can jump to mode of pure goodness. So this one small example, once upon a time, one very powerful man, he was extremely powerful. He was so powerful that he could defeat everyone. But somehow or other, by some people who were envious of him, they tricked him and they made him fall into a ditch. And then what happened? What they were doing? They are covering, they are beating him. He was trying to come out, but they're not allowing him to come out. Why? Because they knew if he comes out, he's going to beat us down, and he's very powerful. So they were like, throwing stones from up, they're beating him from up, they're suppressing him from up, isn't it? So now, what is the way that this man comes out?
He can climb over the coverings, whatever is coming.
Coverings? There is no covering.
Once they are throwing the stone, so he can gradually climb on that stone. And
actually, what is the only way is that he has to cry for help of a superior person who will put some fencing around that. He will restrict these people, and then he can come out. So of course, this analogy Rai Shankar gives, I also did not fully understand it, but I'm speaking because he told. So this man who is there inside is what? Holy names, and he's so powerful. And these people who are not trying him, trying to, what solution Rai Shankar gives in this?
They are in war, like many soldiers are upon one base only. They are just trying, everyone is upon his body. Because they know once he gets up, then nothing is there. So everyone is on him. But then he said he gets power, but somehow he becomes strong. Like that, he was like that. Everyone then throws away.
He throws away everyone. Yeah. So here he is mentioning the fencing has to be there. So anyways, so the man is holy name who is there in the ditch of, our ignorance of our heart. We have thrown him. And which are envious people? Anarthas. Yeah. So, but by practicing this tapasya, here he is mentioning that fencing is tapasya. So with the help of tapasya, we have to bring out the holy name. Bring out the holy name. Maybe you can compare that power of that person is tapasya. So with the help of tapasya, beginning with other things, Brahma tapasa, brahmacharya, shamayana. By that, what will happen? It will give a strength to this man. And then once he comes out, he will kill all people. We are these people, envious people, anarthas. He will kill. But for that, we have to, guard him with tapasya. Similarly, chanting of the holy name. But for that, because now we have put that holy name in the dungeon of our heart, it is not able to exhibit its full power. But when we do tapasya, it will bring out the holy name very powerfully. And by that, then all other anarthas will be killed. They will be easily killed. Like that. And by mercy of Srila Prabhupada, tapasya is not so difficult in Kali Yuga. They are not given very severe tapasya. It's a very joyful process. But little bit tapasya, if we do, little bit tapasya is certainly essential. We do that, we'll see the result. Okay, so thank you very much. Hare Krishna, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So this class was from Radheshyam Pro's class. Thank you.
What is that
Title, I had not written title, but Radheshyam Pro had given in 24th June 2005. So 15 years before. So analogy is still there being used. This is not outdated analogy. It is still being used. I was also not remembering this analogy fully, but you told it again, so it was nice now. Thank you. Hari Bol. So we are
Pranam Prabhuji.
Dandavat, Hari Bol. So we are fasting today. This is also tapasya till 12 o'clock. It will also help. Jai. Okay, Hari Hari.
Thank you very much, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. We are ending the meeting. Hare Krishna.